It is early Wednesday morning, and last night at work, I was thinking about a couple of different subjects and how they actually go hand in hand. The first thing I was thinking of was a quote that was written or made by a man by the name of Pascal. And if anyone is familiar with this quote, it's also referred to as a God-shaped vacuum. They might have heard that saying or phrase before. But the actual quote by, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but it's Blaise, Pascal. The quote goes, "There is a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every person, which cannot be filled by any created thing, but only by God the Creator, made known through Jesus Christ." So I want to stop right there just with that particular quote. I want to read some more from this particular article, but that was the first subject that I was thinking of. And the other thing that I was thinking of is something that is in the book of Exodus. It is the chapter 20, Exodus chapter 20, and the first verse. This is the beginning of the Ten Commandments. And the very first, it starts off with, "Then God spoke all of these words and said, I am the Lord your God, which has brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of slavery." Excuse me for a minute. Okay. "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself any idol or any likeness, form, or manifestation of what is in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the water under the earth as an object to worship. You shall not worship them nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous, impassioned God, demanding what is rightfully and uniquely mine." All right, and a commentary, and I'm reading this from my Amplified Bible, and a commentary says here that the first four commandments lay out the basics of the relationship with God. God is not a mere abstraction or figment of the imagination. He is the God who spoke dramatically to the patriarchs and continues to speak to us. Our responsibility is to have a relationship with Him whereby we explicitly recognize Him, listen to what He says, and then obeys. What He wants isn't all that complicated. He is the creator and master of the world as we know it. Any view of God that makes Him less falls short of what is required to make the relationship between God and man work. So that's what that says here. And I want to share just a couple more thoughts here. Let me go back to this little article here. Okay, I'm going to read that quote again. "There's a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every person which cannot be filled by any created thing, but only by God, the God who made that commandment, don't worship anything else other than Him, made known to us through Jesus Christ. So many of us try to fill that God-shaped gap with things that end up causing us to feel even more empty and unhappy. It is only Jesus that has the ability to fill that gap. His message is relevant to everyone and meets the basic needs of every human being. In the Gospel of John, I find, this is the author is Edwin Darius, and he says here, I find how Jesus identifies Himself very interestingly. He says clearly that He is the bread of life, the breath of life, the light of the world, and the source of living water. Okay, I'm going to just pause right there for a minute, and I'm going to jump over to something else I found. And this is how these two things tie together, which is why I'm entitling today's little message, Idolatry and the Great Void. So the void is what we all have inside of us, and idolatry is if we try to fill that void with anything else other than the God of creation, the God of Exodus chapter 20, who says, "Thou shalt not have any other God other than him." So I found this interesting thing here, who talks about modern day idolatry. All right, and just want to read a couple things here. Okay. And this author here makes a few interesting comments on, and as always, I will include these links for you to read in its entirety on your own. Couple thoughts here. It says, we tend to think of idolatry as a sin of the past or something in some kind of Eastern mysticism. Okay, an idol worship is contained to those who look to some little wooden trinkets, a golden calf, or some other image, or other images of gods for their own needs. We certainly don't think we have modern day idols in our Western culture, but idolatry is surprisingly modern and very prevalent in our culture. Okay, and so basically, what is an idol? Idolatry isn't confined to worshiping a quote-unquote golden statue or praying to some kind of a trinket. It is much broader than that. So here's a helpful definition. An idol is when something or someone becomes more important to us than God. And I'm going to read that again. An idol is something or someone who becomes more important to us than God. All right? By that definition, even good things can become idols when we make them the ultimate things in our lives. Anything or anyone can become an idol if we place the value for that thing or that person above our value for God. And I want to read something else here. There was a bishop by the name of Augustine who wrote several different things, but one thing in particular that I am going to reference is his autobiography, which he entitled Confessions. And I find that this is very pertinent to these two subjects. So I'm going to read a couple little things here. And this particular thing says, the first paragraph of Augustine's groundbreaking autobiography, which he entitled Confessions, closes with its most memorable line. Speaking to God, Augustine says, "You have made us for yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you." So beautifully written, it's not surprising that this line is quoted and referenced so often. But why does it still resonate with readers over 16 centuries later? In his book Confessions, Augustine writes about his own heart's wandering to show us how every heart remains restless until it rests in God. How can Augustine be so sure that knowing God will give our hearts the rest that they search for? Augustine's answer is simple. God knows what we need because He created us. He even knows you and me better than we know ourselves. He prayerfully reflects on this when he says, "You, Lord my God, are the giver of life." Okay, hang on one second. All right. And he refers to the Psalms 139, verses 13 to 14, and David wrote and said, "For you, O God, formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, my soul knows it well." The God who intricately formed us knows exactly what our hearts long for. Because he formed us, he knows what will give us rest. Okay? And for yourself. While some people are still in search of rest, others may feel that they've already found the rest that their hearts long for. But Augustine wants to show that God created us in such a way that we find true rest only when we find it first in him. And there's some other good things here. I'll just go ahead and share this link. But that was basically what I was thinking of at work, how the void that is in all of us, and we are searching for different things to fill it, but it can only be filled from the God who created us, because he knows how. He obviously knows how he made us. He knows what we need. He knows what's good for us. He knows what's best for us, just like how he said in Exodus chapter 20. So these are just my thoughts. I just wanted to pass these on along with these links. I highly encourage you to please read this material for yourself, and so that God can fill those empty places, fill that void with himself, show you the purpose that he has for you, and so that longing that's deep in your heart will be filled as no other from him, God himself, and that cannot be filled from any other source. So that's what I wanted to share today. So thank you very much, and I'm praying that you have a very blessed, God-filled day today. Thank you for listening.